When you were gone, I was doing like some dance moves.
Sweet. Maybe that'll go into our pre-post.
Maybe.
The highlight for the week, just Patience dancing. Okay. So as I was saying. Welcome to this week's Read This Next with Patience.
Hi.
And Nicole. This week we are going to be talking about books that are kind of fractured fairy tales. Maybe they are fairy tales, maybe they're just retellings of fairy tales, but they are somehow linked to myths, fairy tales, folklore. So for those of you that don't know, Laura isn't here this week, obviously. So Patience is filling in, and next week we're going to have Shauna in to talk about video games, which is pretty exciting.
Lots of special guests.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the perfect time for it. So Patience, because you're new to the show, I figure we'll do a quick introduction. First of all, when did you start at the library?
I started with the library in 2016, so it's been about 3 years, almost 4 years, I think. Yeah. And I closed the door.
Oh. And have you always been in children's?
Yeah, actually, I was first put on as supply staff, and then I quickly became temporary staff, and I was right in children's. And then within I think it was a month and a half, I was permanent time in children's. This is pretty much my whole life. It's all I've known. And it's all I really like to know. Children's is my favorite position. I love working with the kids. I think they're very fun. Kids have so much to say and so much to learn from, just in general.
Absolutely. You mostly, what programs do you normally do that people would recognize you from?
It's so funny that you're asking this, because I find I'm like, we already know it. So, but it's like,
I'm asking for the viewers.
For the viewers. I primarily, I used to run before we got shut down for COVID-19. I ran Tales for Twos, which may be coming back. Check back in October. So I ran Tales for Twos, and I was running Baby Time at one point, and then I started running Wild Ones, which was a more focused group for 1-year-olds, more movement. Because it's hard to make one sit. As soon as they learn to walk, it's pretty much just
they don't want to stop.
No.
They're like, oh.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, so you see me from those programs. On March break, I usually do 1 or 2 big programs for March break for the older kids. And I used to run an anime night.
Keep an eye out for that, because that might be coming back in January.
Hints.
Exciting. Okay, so last question. Actually, let me check the time. Yeah, last question. What's your favorite kind of book to read?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's so funny because over time, your books changes. I remember being younger and I just hated Super Fudge. Who's the author?
Oh yeah. Is that Judy Blume?
I don't think. Maybe it's Judy Blume.
Beverly Cleary.
Beverly Cleary. I hated them. I hated them so much. Everyone's like, they're so good, and I was like, sucks. But I loved Dear Dumb Diaries. I loved Captain Underpants, which was very strange at that time for a girl. They were like, what? You're a girl? You like butt jokes? And I was like, yeah. I don't know. And then, yeah, so I liked those books. And then I got older, and it was all vampires all the time, werewolves, pixies, anything dark and mysterious.
Paranormal.
Yeah, I was all over it. And then now I find I really like kind of retellings of fairy tales, which is kind of a few steps back, but usually they're dark. I like dark retellings of kind of grim style. I like where there's murder and mayhem and a little bit of a mystery, and I don't care so much for the romance books anymore. Before it was all about it, and now I'm just I want to see a girl fight a monster.
Yeah, you've read a lot. I remember in the past couple of years, you've been reading a ton of romance.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I always enjoy it. Patience always has really, really, really good reviews and tells me all about the books she's reading. So I've actually mentioned you in past episodes being Patience told me about this book. So yeah, okay, so let's get started with our highlights for the week. Did you want to read the first one or did you want me to?
I can read the first one.
Okay.
So the first one is called The Fairy Godmother. The series is called 500 Kingdoms, which seems like a lot of kingdoms.
That's a few too many kingdoms.
Yeah, I know. Like, it is 500. It can be like 502.
Yeah, I have a hard enough time keeping my house in order. Never mind 500 kingdoms.
Right? There's so many. But it's by Mercedes Lackey. And it's about in the land of 5 kingdoms. So it's in the land of 500 kingdoms. If you can't carry out your legendary role, life is no fairy tale. ELENA was supposed to be her kingdom's Cinderella until fate left her with a completely inappropriate prince. Don't you hate when that happens? So she set out to make a new life for herself, but breaking with the tradition was no easy matter until she got a little help from her own fairy godmother, who promptly offered ELENA a most unexpected job. Now, instead of sleeping in chimneys, she has to deal with arrogant stuffed shirt princes who keep trying to rise above their place in their tale. And there's one in particular who needs to be dealt with. Sometimes a fairy godmother's work is never done.
That sounds really cute. And I know I was saying Shauna's filming with us soon, but she said that she read this series and the prince is actually like a child. So she's like, no, that will not be my prince.
No, thank you.
I'll pass.
Babysit your prince all the time. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Just have to change your prince's diaper. Yikes. Okay, our next highlight is The Epic Crush of Genie Lo, which is a series, and it's by F.C. Yee. I like the cover. Looks like it, like super like cool. Like the person in it would be like awesome to hang out with. There's a explosion in here. Okay, so this is the mythology of like the Monkey King. So it's not like Western fairy tales. I'll just read the description. Genie Lo is one among droves of Ivy hopeful overachievers in her sleepy Bay Area suburb. You know, the type who wins. When she's not crushing it at volleyball or hitting the books, Genie is typically working on how to crack the elusive Harvard entry code. But when her hometown comes under siege from hellspawn straight out of Chinese folklore, her priorities are dramatically rearranged. Enter Quentin Sun, a mysterious new kid in class who becomes Genie's self-appointed guide to battling demons. While Genie knows Quentin only as an attractive transfer student with an oddly formal command of the English language, in another reality, he is Sun Wukong, the mythical Monkey King. Wait, I think there's more. There is. Right down to the furry tail and penchant for peaches. Suddenly, acing the SATs is the least of Genie's worries. The fates of her friends, family, and the entire Bay Area all depend on her summoning an inner power that Quentin assures her is strong enough to level the very gates of heaven. I thought it was going to say hell. But every second Genie spends tapping into the secret of her true nature is a second in which the lives of her loved ones hang in the balance.
I love how like relatable they try to make her. They're like, she likes volleyball and she's studying for the SATs and she's really cool.
And she crushes it.
Yeah.
Like, same? Maybe? Yeah, that one looks really good. It sounds like it's fantasy based in real life, which is nice because a lot of people who don't like fantasy will be more likely to read it if it's more based in reality.
Well, that's one of the things I like about fantasy books. I find I really don't like when they have another language I have to learn. I barely know English. It's hard enough as it is. And then or they have a map or like a list of characters in the front. Like it's not a play. I don't want
Too
to have to like
much.
refer back, be like, oh, Marianne is Joanne's and Kyle's like stepsister's half brother. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do homework. I just want to read the book. So it is nice because in the real world, I know what's in there. I know what an apple tree looks like.
I know the map of Canada.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, we've got one more highlight. Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's called The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Ade. It is a series. I believe the second one just came out either this year or late last year. I can't remember the title of it, but the cover is just as pretty as this one.
Yes.
So this is actually a retelling of 1001 Nights and the story of how that goes with the telling these stories every night so that she doesn't have to marry the guy, I think. So I'm going to read you the actual description of it because I haven't read this one yet, but I have it at home and it's on my bookshelf, and of course I haven't read it yet, right? Because that's what happens. Okay, one life to one dawn. In a land ruled by a murderous boy king, each dawn brings a heartache to a new family. Khalid, the 18-year-old caliph of Khorasan, is a monster. Each night he takes a new bride only to have a silk cord wrapped around her throat come morning. When 16-year-old, I know that sounds pretty deadly. When 16-year-old Shahrazad's dearest friend falls victim to Khalid, Shahrazad vows vengeance and volunteers to be his next bride. I would never volunteer.
At that point, if you keep killing your wives, you got to be like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, they're like, he's a boy king. Like, we couldn't just take him out. Like, he must have a very good protection. Okay. So she volunteers to be his next bride. She volunteers as tribute. Shahrazad is determined not only to stay alive, but to end the caliph's reign of terror for once and for all. Night after night, Shahrazad beguiles Khalid, weaving stories that enchant, ensuring her survival, though she knows each dawn could be her last. But something she never expected begins to happen. Khalid is nothing like what she imagined him to be. This monster is a boy with a tormented heart. Oh.
Just like a string of murders, though.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't do them?
Who knows? Part of the mystery.
Yeah. Incredibly, Shahrazad finds herself falling in love. How is this possible? It's an unforgiving betrayal. Still, Shahrazad has come to understand all is not as it seems in this palace of marble and stone. She resolves to uncover whatever secrets lurk and, despite her love, be ready to take Khalid's life as retribution for the many lives he's stolen. Can their love survive this world of stories and secrets? Again, great description. 10 out of 10 would read.
Yeah. I want to pick it up. I thought I had read this book earlier when you showed me, but I think I read a different one because I'm like, oh snap, how dare he murder her friend? Like,
yeah, well,
or did he?
This is, now I gotta know.
Now we gotta know.
I've realized in these past weeks, I kind of like a mystery element in books, which didn't think I did, but apparently. Okay, that wraps up the highlights. Of course, fairy tale books are super easy to find if you're looking for them. Literally just search fairy tale books on Goodreads and you'll find so many. But let's get into our highlights. First of all, I love the cover of the one that you're going to highlight. So I'll insert.
I actually have going to do like 2 highlights, if that's okay.
Okay.
Breaking the scheme. So The Girl in Red. So what I've been really into lately is I've always loved fairy tales. I've always been like, I'm a princess. I'm just trapped in the real world. And, I just need any minute to open a door and go somewhere magical. But lately, I've been really, and this is completely new. I'm really into like kind of horror books, not movies who scare me, but books. Like I've never been interested in that. I'm like, where's my prince? But now I'm like, murder. Yeah. So I've been really into that lately, or like twisted fairy tales I don't necessarily have. I like kind of a happy ending, but have like interesting endings. So one of them is by Christina Henry, and she wrote another book I read was Lost Boy, but then I read The Girl in Red. So it's about a young girl, youngish, I guess, I don't know, sure. And she wears a red hood. She's like Red Riding Hood, and there's something going on in the world. It's like a parasite or something. So people get sick and then they die. No one knows why. And so everyone like locks themselves in the room, that like their houses. The world is going chaotic. You have to wear masks and stuff. Weird.
Oh,
I know that was on the nose. How did that happen? I didn't think of that. But anyways, but so she's trying to go to her grandmother's house, who's in the woods. So her parents, I'm not gonna spoil it, but her parents can't go with her. So she and her brother try to get to her parents' house. But then you find out this virus is not quite what it seems, and she has to go through the world, like go to her grandma's house, which is like so far away. And so one of the really interesting things is that she is a young African American girl, and she's missing part of her leg, full leg. So she's an amputee, and it's about her struggle to get miles and miles and miles from her house to her grandmother's house in the woods, when she is considered helpless almost. She has to hide from people who are kind of racist, people who judge her on being a woman, and also think she's easy pickings because she's missing a leg. And she uses all those things, and she's like, the whole time she's just like bad woman. She's like, she's super cool, and she's just kicks butt. It's awesome. But there's like, once in a while, there's like these dark moments, and I kind of enjoy them, but it's not too scary.
You said that Lost Boys was pretty dark too, right? That was by the same author?
Yeah, and that's a Peter Pan retelling, and it's about James Hook, which was super neat. Which I'd recommend that one. That was my first one, and also it's pretty dark. Like there's like murder, but it's also, you kind of look at Peter Pan a different way after that, and it's, I don't know, I'd recommend it. But the second book I really want to talk about is called The Deep. Ooh. And I'm actually only halfway down this book, but so far I like it.
There you go.
And it is actually, so it's by Rivers Solomon? Yes, I think so.
Okay.
But she also written it with William Hewson, Jonathan Snippers, and as some of you may know, Daveed Diggs. He's also the guy who plays in Hamilton. He's the oh my gosh, Thomas Jefferson, and he's Lafayette. And that is my favorite character in Hamilton. Sorry. He's my favorite character. I find him very funny and charismatic. The doorbell. He's very charismatic. I find that he's very funny. He's quite very talented. And he's in all sorts of things. A new movie called Soul coming up in Disney. But besides just like promoting him, I think he's very I think he's awesome. But they teamed up and they wrote a book called The Deep, and it's actually about mermaids and African American mermaids, and each one mermaid is given the task to remember everything.
Oh, it's kind of like The Giver.
Kind of like The Giver. And so but the memories overwhelm her. And so some mermaids travel around, get more memories because they're like the keeper, I can't remember what they call them. And she has to keep all these memories, but they're like destroying her almost. And she's really struggling to be this, because she actually she's starting to struggle to tell difference between real life and memories. So she doesn't know which one's happening. And it's very good so far.
That sounds really cool. I like mermaids.
Mermaids are cool. There's not enough mermaid books. I find like a lot of them are very like, they're all like Little Mermaid remakes.
Yeah, or they're either Little Mermaid or they're very dark.
Very dark.
Yeah, which makes sense because like sirens were like la 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 murder. So
those two things they're known for is murder and singing. And
absolutely, Little Mermaid didn't do that, but not in the fairy tale either.
No.
All right, I will tell you. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say it's like empowering about mermaids. Like they're just like, you know what? We look good, and we're gonna murder you.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people can do that at the same time?
Absolutely. Not me.
Yeah, let's be fair, none of us.
I would get arrested. All right, I will tell you my recommendation. I just have to pull it up so I can see it. Can you still see me?
I can still see you.
Okay, perfect. So I am recommending A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which a lot of people might have already read. It's by Bridget Kemmerer. I read this, I think, early this year, and I really liked it. It's basically about this girl named Harper, and she has cerebral palsy. And she's had a very hard life. Her father's gone. Her mother is dying. Her brother is constantly underestimating her because of her cerebral palsy. And she's just trying to survive, really. And then this guy comes into the world, into like her world, and is like, hey, I'm stealing this lady from the street. And she's like, excuse me? And like tries to save the woman, and instead he ends up taking Harper. And so they go back, and it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And the main guy, obviously, terrible monster, and gotta fall in love. But Harper is like tough as nails. It won't be pushed around, can take care of herself. Tough as nails, super baller, great gal. Proves time and time again, obviously she's unstoppable, doesn't need anybody's help, which is like awesome. And the guy's like, man, she's not like other girls. And then, they kind of start falling in love, and she starts like actually taking care of his kingdom, because he's like, oh, I'm a beast, I can't go out. And she's like, excuse me, your castle and its surrounding area is like dying. And he's like, oh, woe is me. And then he slowly becomes a better human, and like she becomes a little more forgiving. And
is there like magic teacups and stuff still, or like just like
there is magic, and I can't remember what the dark force is that they're fighting, but it's like there's a sequel coming out.
Okay.
Or it might already be out. I feel like it is, but it left it on a bit of a cliffhanger. Like it felt like it wrapped it up, but it was like to be continued.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I like that one. I would recommend it to people. The cover is very cute. It's like, I'll insert it here for the viewers, but for you, I don't think I saved this one. It's got the words, and they look like they're in glass, and there's like vines all over it. Ooh. And it looks really cool. But yeah, that's my recommendation for the week. Honestly, I think we have some great reads here. One more that I'm just going to shout out that I didn't have time to read was The Sleeper and the Spindle, which is an LGBTQ graphic novel of kind of a combo of Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, where the queen saves the princess.
And it's by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, and Chris Riddle, who is like another fairly well-known illustrator. So awesome. Check that one out too. That's the end of our episode. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and thank you Patience for filling in for Laura this week.
Just pretend I'm Laura now.
Yeah, we took Patience and morphed Laura into her. So
I wish I had like a mask of Laura's face I could just hold up and pretend to be Laura.
I feel like that'd be really creepy.
It would be terrifying, but fairy tales sometimes are.
That's true. There's a lot of hidden identities in them. So like we always say, check us out next week. We'll be live on Facebook at 2 p.m. every Friday, and we also post these on YouTube. You can check out show notes for titles and the same details that we might have said in here or a bit more on our blog, tbplofftheshelf.com, and we will see you guys all next week. Bye!